Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Monday, April 13th, 2026, in the space and time continuum. And a lot of people are talking about a shift change this week. I think there have been a few going on for a while, but this one just keeps getting more intense. Just this morning, Monday morning, Trump, with perfect timing, turned even more of the most deep-seated maggots that were still with him against him, because he posted a picture of himself as Jesus Christ with light in his left palm that looks like he grabbed some from his left palm, has it in his right hand, putting it on the forehead of what looks to be Jeffrey Epstein, laying there dead. I don't know if you know the story of Jesus Christ and Lazarus, a buddy of his who died, and then he went in the cave. I don't know why they put people in, I guess they put people in caves back then when they die, at least in that area of the world. And Jesus went in and raised Lazarus from the dead. Of course, Jesus himself raised from the dead. These are the stories in the Bible. Believe them or not, doesn't matter if they're true or not, in my opinion. To me, it's a book of valuable fables that we should learn from. And Donald Trump has not learned any of those fables, especially what the supposed teachings of Jesus Christ were, because he is exactly the antithesis of Jesus Christ. And now apparently the most deep-seated maggots agree with me on that. They are calling it blasphemy, accusing Donald Trump of blasphemy. Can you believe it? They're okay with ICE killing Americans. They're okay with Donald Trump raping children. They're okay with Donald Trump covering up other pedophiles who rape children and protecting them. They're okay with the myriad. They're okay with the money. They're okay with war. They're okay with all of this stuff. But then Donald Trump posts a picture of himself as Jesus Christ, and that's what turns him. Hey, man, whatever it takes. I'm not going to welcome you to our side, but hey, come to our side and help us out. We believe that all of this stuff that now you finally believe about Donald Trump, we've believed it, I don't know, for decades and decades. So, I don't know. Welcome to our side. I'm not ready to go that far. But hey, here's your jersey. Get on the field. All right? Join us in fighting against this horrificness. Yes, we do realize that you are responsible for bringing it here. But now, never too late. Here's your jersey. Get on the field. Help us out. By the way, Donald Trump tried to say, it wasn't me as Jesus Christ, it was me as a doctor, because I'm a doctor, because I heal people. I make them better. He seriously said that. But that was a few minutes after he deleted the post. So he knows it was wrong. He did say, yes, I did post it, but it was only the fake media, only the fake news would say that it was Jesus. Well, it wasn't the fake news that said you were Jesus. It's your own most deep-seated maggots recognized it as being Jesus. He just can't get out of these things anymore. And now what is he saying? They won't open the Strait of Hormuz. They're keeping it closed. So now I'm going to put a blockade and it'll be closed because they should have opened it. So now I'm going to close it. They can't close it anymore because I'm closing it.
It's a blockade. They call it a blockade. It's an excursion. Not Jesus. The doctor.
Hopefully that's what's going to happen soon here. The short outs will just call, the moment where I was going to say his soul leaves his body. I'm not sure that that's the form he's in. I'm not sure. Anyway, okay, I'm getting way in the weeds here. Let's get to some things that have happened. By the way, though, it is pretty hilarious how he keeps saying,
the other countries should help us with the blockade, but we don't need the other countries. And they should help us open the Strait of Hormuz, but we don't need the Strait. We don't need the Strait of Hormuz, but we need it open, but we don't need it. We never use it. Other countries should help us, but we don't need them. We don't need the other countries. We need them. We don't need, we need that. We don't,
hopefully that moment will be coming soon. Okay, so, of course, an incredible thing happened. Now, you've probably been getting irritated with me for always being optimistic. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I've been getting irritated with me. Not just for that, other things as well, but it's hard. Think about how irritating I am to you, and then think about me being me, and how difficult it would be to be constantly irritated. You can at least turn the podcast off, or you only need to listen to me for half an hour a week. I'm in it all the time, and I do it for you. I do it for you. Okay. I listen to me so you don't have to. Now, okay. Now who's shorting out? I'm shorting out. Sorry. All right. Yes, I've been optimistic. And what happened this weekend, and I believe it's foreshadowing of what's going to happen in the United States, but this weekend it happened in the country of Hungary. I'm sure you know about this. But kind of a funny thing about it is Donald Trump said,
the United States will put its full economic strength behind Hungary if you elect my friend Viktor Orban. He's a great guy.
And then J.D. Vance goes there and does his thing. I've never worked on a J.D. Vance imitation. I don't think I want to get into that. I don't think I even want to go there. But he stood next to Orban about a week before the election. When Vance did that, Orban lost, I think, 3 percentage points, and then Trump started to talk about it, saying,
I fully endorse Viktor Orban. I've got a great record of endorsing people in the country of America.
Not true.
And now I think I'm going to endorse leaders around the world because I got a great record, and I'm going to endorse Viktor Orban.
And then Viktor Orban's numbers tanked even more. I think it went 9 points down. That was within the last week of the election. He lost overwhelmingly, so overwhelmingly that he, as a dictator who's been ruling as a dictator since 2010 for the last 16 years in Hungary, he conceded, I think, before the final count was even finished. That's how much he got his ass kicked. If it's too big to rig, if we show up, almost 79% of the Hungarian voters showed up. That's what happened. They overturned their dictator. And it happened in 2023 in Poland. The right wing is losing. J.D. Vance went and he tried to prop up the right wing in Germany, I think it was, and then they lost. He's got a great record going on, by the way. So after J.D. Vance and Donald Trump put their full-throated, by the way, why? Why are you working on actually interfering in a foreign election? again. It's not going well. And then Vance tries to do these peace talks, which we all knew was just BS. The way things like that work is the experts and the underlings, the people, not the Vice President of the United States, not even the Secretary of State, which, by the way, why was the Secretary of State not a part of these negotiations? And why was the Secretary of State actually at a fake wrestling match with Donald Trump while these negotiations were taken on that normally the Secretary of State would be overseas working on? But all the deals get made between the experts and underlings of both sides, or in this case, it would have been three sides, but Israel apparently wasn't even there. All of those details get worked out so that the big guy comes in and basically signs off on it and usually takes credit for it, yes. They didn't do that because they're too stupid to realize that that's what you do. So J.D. Vance just goes there and, he thinks, he's just trying to read what Donald Trump wants him to do, which, of course, Donald Trump, that target is constantly moving. So it's an impossible task anyway. But even if it wasn't impossible, J.D. Vance is he has no experience in it, and he's an idiot. So anyway, the quote-unquote peace talks was a bunch of BS and totally tanked. J.D. Vance, his popularity is at record lows, of course, so as is Donald Trump's, as is the Republican Party. You see what's happening here? People are talking about the 25th Amendment. People are getting serious about it, and Donald Trump is helping them out. So things are really seriously turning now. Really seriously turning, and we can all see it. My optimism is getting stronger, of course, as I have a feeling a lot of yours is as well. This election in Hungary is a sea change that will be impossible to turn around. And it is so absolutely debilitatingly horrible for the Republicans that I don't even know if they're going to try and mess with the elections anymore. It's just getting so overwhelming. And who knows what's going to happen still between now and the elections. We're learning more and more about crime. Donald Trump.
I'll pardon everyone who comes within 200 feet of the Oval Office. Pardons for everybody.
Which, of course, is the biggest admission of guilt, right? I mean, the military's turning against him, finally. They're coming out and saying, we were left unprotected in our base in Saudi Arabia, and now we're staying in hotel rooms. No, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Yeah, Pete Kegbreath saying that, it was just, one little drone popped through. Mm-hmm. That's BS. And now the military's coming out and saying that is BS. Of course, this stupid rescue, it never happened. Did they place people in the country? Why did they send 2 large airplanes to rescue one guy and hundreds of military personnel? And then the 2 airplanes, we destroyed them because they got stuck in the sand? But nobody got hurt, although missiles were raining down on us. Although they've lost all of their missile support, they've lost all of their anti-aircraft. But we were rescuing a guy who got shot down by Iran anti-aircraft. The lies. You can't keep track of them. When you're a liar, you can't keep track of your lies. It becomes a problem. You start to contradict yourself. So, how many military personnel did we leave in this supposed rescue? Because you've got 2 airplanes that carry like 140, capable of carrying like 120 to 140 military personnel each, I believe it was. And they were both destroyed. How did you get those people back out? Okay. I covered a lot of that last week. We have more this week, including what's going on with MELANIA. And I also want to talk to you about a movie that is 50 years old that popped up to me for some reason or another. I don't believe in coincidences, but I want to tell you about that. After we take a short break, you're listening to A Satellite View. We'll be right back. Satellite View. Find our website, satelliteviewpodcast.com. Sign up to be on our mailing list. Go to YouTube and search for Satellite View Podcast and find our YouTube channel. And subscribe. It's free. You can see this show on video. And if you're listening on audio, thank you so much for being here. By the way, you can also find me at Todd Mikkelson on Instagram and Blue Sky and Twitter and places like that. And speaking of Blue Sky, a long time ago, I used to go through my Twitter feed because I would save a lot of stories there. And Twitter has just become such a horrible cesspool that I stopped doing that. But now I've kind of shifted to Blue Sky. And I want to tell you a few things about what's also changing that is for positive. And I'm not forgetting about what I told you we were going to talk about when we come back. But I'm going to stick this in first. Because again, it's more positive news. Cork Airport to get Ireland's largest solar carport. Now, in some countries, I think Ireland is included, I think Scotland, but some countries are starting to pass legislation where if there's a parking lot, a car park, they call it a car park or a car park. I can't. I'm not up on my accents anymore. A car park. Would that be Irish? Anyway, so if it's something like if there's 80 spots, so if it's a parking lot that's big enough to fit 80 cars, you have to put solar panels covering it. So like roofs over the cars in solar panels. A lot of these are already built, and there's already photos of them. Here's an interesting article in Truth Out. The title is, What Do Authoritarians Fear Most? People Who Stick Up for Each Other. That's what we witnessed here in Minnesota in January and all the times. That's what we witnessed here in the United States, where people stood up to ICE and basically melted it. and that's what happened in Hungary. That's what's happening in other countries. It's actually kind of started to happen in Iran. But of course, then Donald Trump went in and and under Netanyahu, made a big mess of it. Netanyahu and Donald Trump just trying to stay out of prison, by the way. Barack Obama, of course, chimes in and says the victory of the opposition in Hungary on Sunday, like the Polish election in 2023, is a victory for democracy, not just in Europe, but around the world. Another post, the Strait of Hormuz crisis is doing something a decade of subsidies and mandates struggled to achieve, making millions of people want an EV, an electric vehicle, who previously discounted them. I've talked about it for the last couple of weeks. This oil crisis that we're going into, is it going to help EV sales? Is it going to turn more people toward solar power? Somebody points out, a ship of oil can be used once. A shipload of solar panels generates power for decades. Somebody else pointed out that the price of solar power has gone up $0.00 in the last million years. South Australia's power prices have plummeted as they near 100% renewables, proving to the world that relying on wind and solar with battery backup is possible, more reliable, and costs people less. This is how we avoid the next oil crisis. The cost, solar energy has gone up an incredible 0.0 pounds in the last, actually 3.5 billion years is what it says here. Denmark didn't transition its grid, it replaced it. We've been talking about that with our whole American government here. This is system replacement in Denmark from 15% to 92% renewable electricity in the last 20 or so years. I could go on and on with stories about renewable energy. That seems to be multiplying quickly during this stupidity that Trump is doing in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Now, what's going on with Melania Trump? Supposedly, CNN, possibly tomorrow or by Thursday, is going to interview the woman, I forgot to write her name down, who's the Brazilian model, who says she's got a lot of information and Melania should keep her mouth shut. She was close to Melania for 20 years. So, what's going on here with Melania? She totally knifed Donald in the back by doing this announcement that I'm sure you've heard of. A couple things I want to point out with the woman who got a Einstein visa, actually an Epstein visa. But she says it's an Einstein visa because she's so smart. She knows 7 languages. She constantly proves that English is not one of those 7. You could tell she was reading because she was talking about all these story are trivial. She meant to say all these stories are trivial. But she doesn't know how to read or speak English, so she said trivial. She also said, and I've never been convinced of a crime. You mean convicted? Is that what it says? I don't know. But I know I've never been convinced of a crime. Oh my God. Anyway, yes. People call her the First Lady. Nothing against sex workers, but that's basically what, that's how she got into the United States. That's how she got to be a citizen. Illegally. She's an illegal citizen call girl. But again, I don't hold anything against sex workers. The sad thing is most of them are forced into that line of work. But that's not what we're talking about here. I want to talk about a very interesting thing that happened to me this week where the movie Network came up and I ended up watching it because I remember it being a good movie. It is a good movie. And if you remember, it's the movie where I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. That came from. It's the story about a guy who's been an anchor for years and years on television, a news anchor, and he kind of starts to go crazy. He's had hard times. His wife died. He's been drinking hard. He starts to go crazy, and he announces he's going to commit suicide on the air. And it's a really funny scene because nobody notices that he says it because nobody's really paying attention to him anymore. So all the people in the control room, nobody even noticed that he said, "So on Tuesday, I'm going to blow my brains out live on television. We'll be back after this." And nobody caught it. But anyway, so the story keeps going on, and then he ends up kind of being crazy. He has a vision of sort of like a spiritual, like, why me? Oh. And so then he goes on the air and he says, I was given a vision where I have to talk about all this stuff. And it said, why me? And it said, because you're on television, dummy. So he starts to talk about truths, and they get really worried about it. But that's when he shows up, and they put him on camera, and he does this whole, talking about the corporate takeover of the news. And this is in 1976. He's talking about the corporate takeover of the news and how we're not allowed to tell the truth anymore because the corporations are telling us what we can and can't report on. And that's when he says, go to your windows and say, yell out your window, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. There's an incredible scene then where the head of the network is talking to him, and I'm going to quote you this. This is from 1976. There is no America. There is no democracy. There's only IBM and ITT and ITNT and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon. Those are the nations of the world. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business, Mr. Beale. It has been since man crawled out of the slime. That's a quote from a movie in 1976. What ended up happening to this guy, Mr. Beale, the guy who said he was going to commit suicide, and then they give him his own show because he's got all these ratings, but then he gives up the big real truth, and he says this merger that his company's going through, you got to stop it. Telegram the White House, and it becomes a really big movement of the people. The people flood the White House in telegrams trying to stop this merger. So then all of a sudden, the people in charge of this merger, they say you can't do that anymore, and you got to stop giving the power to the people. What they end up doing is they assassinate him live on the air because they think that's going to bring ratings back. But they decide to assassinate him on camera because he was not giving the right message anymore. That happened in the summer of 2025 to a guy that they let rise to the top who was gathering young people in colleges. Turning Point USA. Remember Charlie Kirk? Charlie Kirk started to talk against Israel. Charlie Kirk started to say, we need to release the Epstein files. Charlie Kirk was assassinated on camera. So all of a sudden I was like, wow, what made me watch this movie right now? 50 years after the movie came out. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But wow. Ugh. Okay. Some more things that I wanted to make you aware of in the war in Russia and Ukraine. Now, it seems like Donald Trump has successfully elongated the life of the Kremlin. Who knows if, Vladimir Putin is even alive anymore, but the Kremlin got extra money because Donald Trump lifted sanctions on oil in Russia. It maybe gave them a little bit more money, but they've been encouraging people to come from other countries and other countries to send their prisoners, like criminal prisoners, because they're running out of soldiers. In March, 35,351 Russian soldiers killed. A big part of that is because Ukraine has been producing their own drones. You heard me report on that for months now. And those drones are becoming very lethal, those drone hits. They're going deep into Russia. Ukraine has all but obliterated the Russian military. You've heard me give you other reports of bombs going off very near the Kremlin, and that if Putin is alive, he's in a bunker underneath the Kremlin. His own people are turning on him. His own security is turning on him. This is what's going on over there. So in Hungary, the dictator collapses. In Russia, the dictator may have already collapsed, and we just need to finish, basically Zelensky just needs to finish this war, and it sounds like he's coming very close to doing so. Here in America, we've got maggots turning against our dictator. In the meantime, he said he was going to throw the full economic strength behind Hungary while he's cutting health care for millions, tens of millions in the United States. He himself said a couple of weeks ago, we can't pay for daycare because there's not enough money. But then he asks for $200 to $400 billion more for defense. How much daycare could that $2 to $4 billion provide? He gave a $4.5 trillion tax cut and benefit package to the richest Americans and companies. He gave $40 billion to Argentina. He spent almost $2 billion a day on a war in Iran, yet we don't have enough money for daycare. The Strait of Hormuz being closed, fertilizer, helium. People are having their MRIs canceled because helium is used in MRIs. And helium's not getting through the Strait of Hormuz. That's one of the biggest places for helium to be shipped around the world. Food prices are going to be going up a lot more. Possible 4-point inflation. That means that the Fed will not lower interest rates. That means that it's getting more and more expensive to buy a house, to get a mortgage. Getting more expensive to buy gas. It's past $4 a gallon. Diesel is past $5 a gallon. That means any deliveries in trucks and even trains across the country are going to raise. That includes food and other things. That's what our dictator is doing to our people here in this country. When will he fall? The people are turning against him. In Hungary, it came to their boiling point and their election day. And the people, the power of the people, proved to be extremely powerful. I still could not believe that Orban conceded before the final count was even done. We all thought that he was going to lose the election, but what kind of shenanigans was he going to do? Well, the people were just too powerful and too overwhelming for him to do any shenanigans at all. He conceded to his opponent on the phone, and then he also told and announced to his supporters in his live concession speech that he called his opponent and congratulated him. It went normal. It went the way an election is supposed to go. And a dictator of 16 years running Hungary stepped down. It's happening in country after country. Soon it will be our turn. Hang in there. We are getting there. Donald Trump is falling on his own stupidity, sort of his own stupidity at this point as well. People are turning against him. Let's keep the fires burning, and let's keep putting their feet into those fires. Republican legislators, keep the pressure on them. You're doing an incredible job of being brave and sticking to it. The power of the people is palpable in this country. Let's keep it up. Let's stick with each other to get through this. I'm here with you, and I thank you so much for being here with me on A Satellite View. We will speak at you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.